reader in the Department of Sociology, and I have been in the department for 5 years. I arrived 5 years ago. I've seen the department change quite a lot over the 5 years. It's been a period of enormous, exciting change, and I'm really proud to have been a big part of it. Well, one of the things that's shifted considerably in Cambridge is the student body. When I arrived, I think the students were more or less from fairly similar social backgrounds. And I think the university and the department have been doing a lot of outreach work to get students from a variety of different backgrounds. And we can really see that reflected in the lecture halls. So I would say my most memorable experience was last year teaching the Introduction to Sociology course and giving the lecture on gender and sexuality, and having one of the most participatory lectures that one can imagine in a lecture hall full of about 220 students. It was a wonderful, incredibly lively discussion, with students posing basic questions like, should we even think of the category of gender in the way that we used to before? And does gender even matter? Does it exist? And what is the very basis of this category? And I think that was, it was memorable because a lot of students spoke their minds and they spoke to each other. And after that, I had students coming up, and I heard about that lecture for a long time after that. And it seemed to me a turning point in sociology at Cambridge, in the sense that students could see that this really mattered for their own personal experiences, for their identities. They brought questions about intersectionality into the lecture hall, their own thoughts and views. They felt free to express them. I hadn't seen that before, and I thought it was an incredibly respectful, but at the same time incredibly open discussion. And it was memorable for that reason. Well, the department has changed a lot in 5 years. We've had a lot of new hires, especially in the areas of race and intersectionality. And I think that that's broadened the curriculum and the intellectual horizons of the department, so that, for example, we initiated Decolonizing Sociology working group last year, which has drawn undergraduates, MPhil and PhD students, as well as staff into the group. That's really shifted the basis of what we consider to be sociology in the department. I think the students are really excited about that, because it means we can really start to think about the curriculum in a fundamental way. Why do we prioritize certain theorists? Why do we prioritize certain readings? But also about pedagogy. So I think the entry of new staff in the department has really livened the intellectual debates within the department. I also seen a kind of broadening of the geographical regions that we study. So after I arrived, I work on South Asia. We've brought someone who works on Latin America. We have people who work on Eastern Europe. We have people who work on all areas of the world, practically. I think that means that sociology has been really decentered from its relatively traditional focus on Britain and British history, which I think is, of course, very important for students. But I think it's also great that students are exposed to debates about class, gender, even race, ethnicity, by drawing on the experience of staff from other regions of the world, their fieldwork, their research, and their own personal experiences as well. So I would say we are, in terms of the coverage, geographical coverage, and the expertise we bring in the department, probably one of the most diverse departments of sociology in the country. We're also quite unique in the sense that I think the department's really moved towards a model of bridging cutting-edge theoretical with cutting-edge methodological work. And I think that marriage of theory and empirical work is something that is our touchstone of the work that we do in the department. And I think that's been part of the transformation in the past 5 years, to kind of think of ourselves that way, to create this kind of fairly unique identity. Well, I think the the challenges are always, thinking about what we don't do. So I don't think the department should rest on its achievements. There are areas of sociology that are great public policy importance. They're really important in terms of the future of the planet. For example, the environment and climate change and the study of war and violence, breakdown, it's the breakdown of certain kind of social forms and so forth, that I think the department needs to start really taking on board. And I think that's one of the challenges. The department faces challenges of the environment in which it exists. So the university, the future of what's going to happen with student intake, with funding, all this kind of, sort of challenges facing higher education, the neoliberalization of the academy. What is sociology going to say about things like the quantification of research, the quantification of research income, and the metrics that we use to measure good research? Because I think these are all going to be issues that we need to be thinking about and speaking out about as well. I think that because we're, partly because of our identity of kind of really doing this sort of theoretical innovation with methodological innovation, I think that the future for the department will lie in being a relevant force in public debate, in a kind of public sociology, that we should be able to bring to whatever we research a voice that is informed by empirical research, that's informed by really listening to the voices of people who are affected by these things, whether it's famine or war or violence or racial inequality, and bringing that in a relevant, comprehensible way to larger audiences. So instead of merely retreating into sociology journals and smaller conversations, which of course we need to have, but thinking of ourselves as a relevant force outside of these spaces as well is, I think, a challenge, because it's about time, resources, but I think it's a challenge we will need to meet to be looking forward to be relevant in the future as a discipline.